Yes, I do have like never a hard no, just a not now. Hey Tara. Hey.
Running to go and hug.
I'll let you hug Tara first because you're really excited about it. Testing. Oh, my phone. I actually have some clipboards downstairs as well, but I didn't think of. Are you gonna record on my phone?
Sure, I'll do something on your phone.
Oh, I feel kind of naked without my phone. Right, put it on. Is everyone here? I think everyone. Is everyone here? Here. Big hive mind. Are there a few more people? Oh, and who's long? Who? Hey Tara, did you move your car in the driveway? Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, it's just that the neighbors are narky and they're literally like you're on their lawn, and then they might blaze music at us. They haven't for a while, but they are. Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Oh, it doesn't. You have to take the case off. Yeah. Right. Do 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 do. Huh? Cookies. Huh? You know how to work it?
No. We'll give it a go. Have a little bit of fun. We'll work it
A
out.
little bit of fun. You just turn it on over there, yeah? And then give it a bit of support. It's gonna like. Oh, it's really not gonna work in the battery.
Oh,
But there you go.
oh,
But it might fail
great.
halfway through, and you can just.
Music.
This is going to be like exceptional notes. They're like coming straight out of the book of
Wizardry.
wizardry. Another one.
They're already energized with spells. Wow, did Celie come and then leave already? Did you see her? Did she do like a super ninja mode?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even see her. She's like a little mouse. Did she just go? Okay, that's how she does it. What's the time?
Now.
Now?
Time is now.
Okay, get the right people happening. We got one more person. Someone needs something to lean on? Yeah, there should be some magical books on here. How about Our Universal Journey by George Kavathelis? What about this one, Bush one? What's it for you?
That
Feels relevant. Anyone? Anyone else need anything? Okay, we have the Australian Scented Garden. Oh, the Art of Divination. Anyone, you want one too? Ooh. What have we got? We have bush flower essences. This is fun. Anyone else? You want one too? Ooh. What's next? Oh, yeah. path, the Spiderwick's field guide to the fantastical world around you. Yeah. Yeah, we're bringing it in. It's the constellations. Yeah, the Wizard and the Witches. You found that one? Did you bring it? Oh, okay. I was supposed to say you got one of those as well. It's really nice. Yeah. Hey, Jess. G'day. Hey. We're just talking about energetics, all the books that are in the space. But now we have no music.
Maddie.
Just my voice. Basket. Time check. Is that one recording, Yanni? Okay. Great. You two are up the front. Gonna get an angle in between those two.
Yeah,
Great. All right. Start. What's going on in there? Want another pen? You want pen or paper? What are you looking for? Pen?
Is that everything?
Just Chiho. Chiho. One seat. We had the exact amount of seats. Okay.
Exact -1, but sure. And you know what? I just want to say I'm so impressed. Because normally magical humans are exceptionally late, and it's literally 11:05, and you're really here.
Yeah. Well
Well
done.
done.
Everyone. And you drove up a mountain.
Yeah. So good.
Means you're ready to learn, and you're going to take everything in, and it's going to be so useful in every part of your life. Your connection with the plants will continue to grow all the way down the hill while you're here. Yanni, every hand slap's affecting the sound. So, welcome to my home. It's called the Dream Lodge because we dream a lot here. And actually, before this house was a house, it was actually like called Tambourine Dreaming. And we only found that out because Yanni came here after we'd been here for like 6 months, and he was like, "Oh, the Google Map says that it's Tambourine Dreaming." So it was already a dreaming lodge before we dreamed it. Luna, hi. Oh, we need another chair. Oh, Sam's on it. Sam's good. And really, I work a lot with dreaming also because it's nice to have the concept of like, are we dreaming or are we awake? And when are we dreaming? And what's the difference between being awake and being in a dream? Originally, I come from South Africa, so a whole different continent, whole different island. And the dreaming here with the indigenous here, or the origines here, which I prefer to call them, us, we're all origines. The dream time is something that's always interested me because of the similarities between altered states, really. And the more I came here when I was 16, and pretty much within 2 years I was really studying herbs. And the more I dived into them and the more I connected with this landscape, I realized that this land for me holds a lot of the dreams, a lot of fairy tales, a lot of all that. Like go to like Byron Bay and those areas, and there's fairies and pixies. Up here, you've got a lot of sprites and like elementals, but just generally in those states, even looking at like the dream art in different states and how those art pieces could be seen as like geographical maps of some of them are actually what I believe it to be like maps of where they're walking and what their landscapes look like in those dot paintings. I didn't know I was going to talk about that, but in that I'd just like to acknowledge the origines of this land and of this mountain, past, present, future, and any of the spirits that are here on this land. I'm so grateful to be able to live here for a long period of time. I must be doing something good. Last time I lived up here, it was 6 months, and then everything fell apart, and I was like back down the mountain, and then everything went well. So I'm really grateful to be here and to be reminded that up here is where we do the work on the mountain. It's a beautiful place to connect. It's got a really beautiful feminine healing vibe. There's a lot of water up here. In my dreaming, I see it as a big crystal mountain with heaps of waterfalls like pouring out of it, and it's like floating in the middle of the sky. Like, yeah, and all that water underneath in the springs flows through crystal beds. So there's like amethyst and smoky quartz. And on the north side of this mountain, there's also the Thunderbird Park. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but they have these like thunder eggs, which are like crystal geodes that get cut open. And it's been there for like 30 years, I think. So they've probably pulled up most of them. But it's kind of like Thunderbird Park. These like giant birds used to live here, and they laid all their eggs that are like in stone, maybe in another time of giants when it was silicon-based life forms and not carbon-based life forms, maybe. So yeah, now that we've dreamed a little bit, welcome to the lodge. And I welcome you guys here. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that's plants. I'm curious to just ask if you guys want to pop out, like what sort of expectations you guys have for today. But there's so much I can talk about, and I could probably also just be like, whatever you want to talk about.
I know nothing at all. So
Great. Awesome. So anything. Great. Great. Thank you. Amazing. Anyone else?
Well, for me,
Hey.
I was actually super excited to see you back connecting with the elements again.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, it's a big excitement. Always excited to see where the evolution I think what's alive for you right now.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, fella. Hey. We've journeyed. Hey, Sam, could you close the door? The mountain's beautiful. It's so serene and like peaceful. And then people use the leaf blowers like every day and mow their lawns like 3 times a day. And it drives you mad unless you get a leaf blower and do it as well. So I actually do it too. Great. So to start with, I'm just going to make some tea because that's what it did say on the event, right? And some disclaimers I would like to say why I pour water in here is I like to make things really humorous and I make fun of things, and I'm not actually being, what's the word, facetious. And if I say something that offends you or your culture or anything like that, please just come have a chat with me. I like to just say that because sometimes I talk about things and I get so used to talking about things, and then you talk about people who talk about things and then like get to the point of like spiritual eye rolling, you know, you're like, oh God, spiritual thing. But then someone's really in it, and you're like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, just in case I make jokes about stuff. So I work a lot with the elements, and that's actually like the beginning of what I would like to share with you guys for plants, and it's something that gives me a really great connection with the plants. I wouldn't say that I hear plants. Like I don't think that they like talk to me. Dogs do though. Like dogs have a really cool like personality when I see them, but plants are different. Plants is more like it's like a sensory experience of them. So for me with the elements, I work with the 5 elements: ether, air, fire, water, earth. And the reason I work with the 5 elements is actually because they're based on Ayurveda. And I just want to speak into, there's heaps of different medical systems in the world. From my research, the oldest is Ayurveda. And then before that, you got like Egyptian and then Atlantean and all of that. But pretty much all the Egyptian stuff got burnt in like Alexandria or whatever. So from Ayurveda, then you've got like Chinese medicine. Chinese medicine doctors might argue with that, but I've also spoken to people that aren't Ayurvedic doctors and aren't Chinese medicine doctors that are actually like studied the history also when it comes to that. So it keeps branching out and changing. So for me, it's more about sticking with the law and grabbing what's useful rather than this system says this. And for me, the 5 elements here are the 5 elements of creation, which is Ayurvedic, where it goes to Chinese medicine. I use that as well in acupuncture and acutonics that I do, but I see that's more within creation. How do the elements work? And there's another system with that, with wood and metal. So there's a change in that. These 5 elements also connect with your 5 senses, which is great because I feel if we connect with the 5 elements, it's the building blocks of reality, and then our senses are our gateway between our inner world and our outer world. So to also be able to access and activate those senses before we even talk about any other sensory, whether I'm hearing a plant talk or feeling a plant talk. But for me, once I've connected with the plant on all 5 senses, there's a relationship and there's a connection that happens through that. Does that make sense? Okay, I like the universal nod. So I made this tea, which is ether. So we can start at ether. Ether is essentially you can see it as the field of consciousness. So it's like where our consciousness dwells before it's embodied, or the field of pure potentiality. So it's this field where anything can happen and everything can happen. You know, like in the universe, it's infinite, so everything's possible. Or the fundamental field of pure intentionality. So where our intentions dwell before we've intended them. You know, like you can have an intention to do something. I'm going to create something, and then you don't do it, and then somebody else does it. Because it's not ours. None of it's ours. It's just alive. And what I've found with working with the elements is when an intention comes through, or you get something from the field, or in Ayurveda they call ether the Akash. So in more spiritual walks, people talk about the Akashic records. Like that's the same thing. It doesn't necessarily need to be like a library that you walk into, but it's this field that if you tap into, everything exists there and you can access all the things. Yeah, it's something you can talk about, and I just like to talk about it sometimes because it's more poetic, because you can't actually explain it, because if you explain it, it's not it. Kind of like Zen. So this tea will probably explain it better than I would. It also relates to our sense of hearing. So while that one brews in, is it cool if I just share my understanding of the elements and how they come to being? Does anyone else work with these elements? Yeah, cool. So the story or the dreaming that I see is that before there was anything, there was everything. And that was like nothing. And when that essentially, that allness or that all thing contemplated itself, it created space. So then there's ether and there's space. And then space for a universe to be created. Does that make sense? It's a concept. So in here, I'm just going to like diverge. Is it also okay if I diverge on things and I'll try to loop back? Sometimes I do. So there's the ether, which is all things, contemplating itself, because it wouldn't create anything else, right? Like everything's not going to create anything because it's everything, not even if it wants to experience everything, or me as individual. So if it created me because it wanted to experience life as me, no, like it already knew me. So it contemplated itself to create space. And ether is hearing, right? So ether and space, now it's confusing because there's 2, but there's 1. But space is like spatial awareness. So right now you're listening to my voice with your ears, and your ears have an eardrum. And what's inside a drum? Space. And I'm speaking with my voice box. And what's inside a box? Space, right? So that's spatial hearing. But etheric is if you count in your mind 1, 2, 3 right now, you're speaking and you're hearing that, right? That's etheric. Cool. So from the space, it started to move, and when it started to move, air was created. So air's movement, its change, its intention. So if you like, it's also the intention's already there, but when you intend it and you move into it, that's air. So air also connects with our sense of touch and feeling. So externally, it's the wind touching your skin. Internally, it's your breath. Like you can feel your breath going in and out. And it's quite erratic still, but it's also almost that like first point of experiencing spirit. You know, even in Spanish, breath is called espíritus. So it's essentially, there's something breathing us before we contemplate that we're breathing, you know, and then we get to breathe with it through our breath. So air holds that. So if you imagine that now there's movement, and it's quite erratic movement in the universe, and then that builds up momentum, which builds up friction, and that friction creates a spark, which creates fire. So fire is illumination, transformation. It's connected with our vision. It's also connected in with the sun externally and our digestive fire internally. It's what digests and helps growth. So if you think of the sun, there's so many things that happen, like photosynthesis in plants, so transformations that happen in plants where plants turn light into food, a whole bunch of other like crazy things going on. So then that fire and that heat of the fire allows condensation and water to form, like water droplets. And water is allowance, it's trust, it's cohesion, because water brings things together, right? So you think you pour water on sand and it becomes mud. There's this, even when you add things to water into dilution in solution, it you know brings things into oneness, essentially brings it together. So water is connected with our sense of taste, because you can't taste anything when your mouth's dry. And from water, you picture the water, and then from water, earth precipitates out. And that could be like precipitating out, or fish coming out of the water and then starting to walk. You know, there's a beautiful poem that one of my friends and mentors, Mark Cohen, is a doctor down south. He's just written a poem about water and how it's got. Have you heard his poem about water, or you know him?
I started in the hot springs and heard all about the poem.
Yeah, cool.
Sitting in water with you.
Oh, great. Yeah, cool. I'm about to do some music for the background for the poem.
Cool.
But just how many different aspects of water creation comes from. So I'll be able to maybe share that a bit later. But if you imagine from the water, earth precipitating, and then we're into this like firmament of reality that we walk on, which is structure, it's form, it's connected with our sense of smell. So we smell the incense, and we smell the flowers and the trees and the grass and the leaves. So it's our sense of smell. So you're going from the more subtle to the more dense in that process. Yeah, and that's like one of the pinnacles of the chocolate dreaming and tea dreamings as well. Oh. So I'm going to give you guys a cup of tea to start with. We're not going to have big cups because there's a lot of tea. You can drink big cups, but then you probably just need to pee a lot. Is that okay? You guys are happy with just having a little sip of tea? Okay, cool. So ether, we got rose, chamomile, and gotu-kola. So rose is just like, rose. It hasn't necessarily been something I've used as like, you need rose for your heart, which it might be good for your heart. For me, I've mainly used. Right. She's on. She went right past the driveway to the next driveway. Which it can be used for your heart. For me, rose is more energetic. So I've always have a connection with rose and the different types of roses. So red rose is more passion, also for like the wounding of the heart, to bring that back, whereas white rose is more like soft and gentleness on the heart. And people, there's a whole like rose cults, you know, there's like the Fellowship of the Rose, and there's the Magdalene Rose things, and it's growing more and more. Anyway, so rose has this royal essence to it, so I thought it would be nice in the ether because she is quite godlike. And then chamomile, which is a beautiful little flower, which most of you probably know about. Does anyone not know what chamomile is? Oh, she's that one that like is in everyone's cupboards that has so much potency that people forget about. But it's like seriously, she is so potent and so gentle. And I spoke about this when I spoke at Sam's event, just touching it on chamomile and how some people are like, I'm so sensitive to chamomile and it makes me fall asleep. And I'm just like, well, you probably just need to sleep. Like, I don't think you're sensitive to chamomile. You probably just need a rest and you're pushing too hard. And chamomile's like, all right, go to bed. Because I drink it and it just makes me nice and spacey, and then I sleep really well. But chamomile has this beautiful ability to also support the digestion as well. So supportive to the gut, it's supportive to the nervous system as well. So it's hitting two major spots when you drink chamomile, because really in herbal medicine, we're looking at, in Western anyway, for what I've learned, we're looking after the nervous system and we're looking after the digestion. So focus on those two things first, and then everything else will make sense. To summarize that short, like your digestion is where nutrients are coming in and toxins are going out. So if your digestion's not working, you're not taking in the nutrients and you're not getting rid of the toxins, so your system's going to be all frazzled, so sort that out first. Then your nervous system, because if your nervous system's fried or not working, what you think you're feeling, you're not. So when people are trying to like heal themselves in all these different ways, do we have another chair? No? You're the best. Hey, Chiho. So yeah, with the nervous system, I look at it like it connects everything, right? So if your nervous system's overactive or underactive or freaking out, your body's not communicating. So how are you going to work out what's happening in any other part of your body? So you're trying to work out some like heart complaint or brain thing or any of those things when your nervous system's not even alive. I always say to people, sort those things out first, because then you'll actually be able to feel, and it can actually show once you sort the nervous system and the digestion. Does that make sense? Cool. So chamomile, what I'm saying is with that chamomile, like grandma's onto it. If you have a Western grandma, that is, in that chamomile does nourish both of those systems. I like to also do licorice as another one. Anyway, stay with ether for now. The other one is gotu-kola. Does anyone know what gotu-kola is? It's actually growing in the garden, and it does grow just like a little weed over here. It's just like a little round leaves. Sometimes there's little purple flowers, but it's known as a type of Brahmi. Where have we got it here? So in India, there's a number of different herbs that are called in Brahmi, and if you think of Brahmi or Brahman in India is holy men, sacred men that meditate, do those things. So for a herb to have that association of Brahman, it like leads to or lends to the fact that it's good for meditation, it's good for spiritual work. It can be deceiving, like to just run on herbs based on their common names. Just a little heads up around herbs, because common names, there can be multiple common names for different herbs. So like, for example, if I said Brahmi, some people could think it's Bacopa monari, which is another brain herb, which is a little one that grows in water, or it could be gotu-kola. But if you know, like gotu-kola centella asiatica, so gotu-kola is good for the brain. If you look at the leaves, it looks like a brain. So there's a concept called, what is it when doctrine of signatures? If you look at the gotu-kola, it actually looks like a brain, like with the two hemispheres as well. And if you're looking at the brain like that as well, it does heal a lot of connective tissue and stuff. It's known as the healing herb. So you can kind of have gotu-kola and it will start to heal everything. Like that's a pretty broad thing, but vulneries are a type of action that herbs have that increase the wound healing potential, if that makes sense.
What was the action called?
Vulnerary. A vulnerary. Like lavender's a vulnerary as well. So when you put lavender on like sores and stuff, it helps the healing speed up. So is chamomile as well. But for gotu-kola, it's like in the system, so it's also really good for connective tissue and things like that as well. So again, within ether, it's like these are all kind of like broad. They have broad and expansive, spacious effects on the body. So that's the ether tea. Any questions about any of that? Right. Yeah, good question. That's what's gonna happen. Oh yeah, I can. Thank you.
Just a question about chamomile.
Yeah.
Recently I had a facial injury and I bruised all my eye sockets and they told me to put chamomile tea bags on my bones and everything
Nice.
to reduce the bruising and inflammation, but I didn't do it because I just wasn't sure.
Oh,
So what do you feel about that?
I think that would have been really great for your eyes. I think it would still be great for your eyes.
Yeah.
You can bathe in chamomile.
Yeah.
You can put it in your bath. It's called like in old times they'd call it the water of youth.
Yeah.
Because it's good for the skin, it's good for everything. So yeah, I would totally chamomile flowers into water like as an infusion, and then soak your eyes in it, or put the tea bags over your eyes. Yeah, great. Yeah, who told you that?
My Chinese herbalist. I mean, I'm only 11 weeks past the injury, so it's like healing quite well. But yeah, I didn't do that.
King. Yeah, I think it would be really great. Yeah, chamomile is one of those ones that is pretty safe. Obviously, you signed a disclosure with none of this is all just general.
Yeah.
Keep them coming.
Keep the teas coming. But generally, chamomile's safe. Your ears are blocked. Yep. Yeah, beautiful. Wow. Thank you. It's the ether opening up the space in your ears. Yeah, I could have done 2 at a time actually. I got multiple. Hey, yeah. Yeah, so it does come in like it's pretty flowers. So you can just chuck the flowers in. First. Yeah. So it's as an essential oil, you can get it. Like there's Roman chamomile, German chamomile, and just put it straight in the bath like that. Or you could do it like this. And if you wanted to choose how much you want to do it, brew it as a tea, really concentrate it, then you could pour it in the bath. I sometimes just pour it in, I just like to throw flowers in the bath sometimes, but it does block the drain afterwards. So you can choose. Do like a really strong one and then pour it in. I'm going as fast as I can, Sam. Yeah. Fire away. So that's cool that you had that effect, Laura, as well. Is that clear for the bath? Yeah. Cool. Or you go like this on the top of the water and like what's it called when you emulsification? So you can do emulsification through vibration as well, which is fun because that's what bees do. Did you guys know that? It's relevant to plants, but bees are like alchemists. So they fly to trees, like plants, and they collect the pollen like on their cute little legs, and they actually fall asleep holding hands sometimes. But so they're flying with the pollen, and then they mix it with spit, and through their emulsification happened, and that's how honey's made. Oh, just like that. Did you know that? Cool.
must be an alchemist.
I was about to say, it must be. Everyone was like, oh, the alchemist. That makes sense.
Bees. Great.
Bees go down.
Lots of fun. We're exploring different ways. Venus.
Like bees are like
Yeah. Well, it's funny because honeymoon. Like what that meant in old times was that when someone got married in a community where everyone has their tasks during the honeymoon, they get married. They usually get married in like the hall, and under the hall they usually have mead sitting under there. So when you get married on your honeymoon, you don't have to work in the tribe or the culture, the what do you call it? Community, place, tribe, and then you get to drink as much mead as you want. And mead is an aphrodisiac, so it's like no working, drink lots of mead, make babies after you get married. So there's also there is that Venus connection with the honey. But I don't know about bees directly with Venus, but maybe bees are just amazing. They're just these like kind of like cooler versions of ants. The ants are cool too. But, yeah, because ants still bite me. Bees, I haven't been stung by a bee ever. I think I jumped in a pool once and got stung on my foot when I was like 4. But ants bite me. So, not so keen on them. Right, these should be good. Any questions about bees? Only one does it, Sam. Can I be? This is your one. Is it for you? Okay, I'm gonna wash it and set up. All right. Who hasn't got tea yet? Oh, you did one side at a time?
Yeah.
All right. Left hemisphere, right hemisphere. And so we have been speaking about like obviously teas, which are decoctions, which are one of the most like common ways of making extracts. And I recommend doing it as well, just for connection of drinking teas. I can remember being when I first started like my herb journey, not being able to find herbs anywhere. And you think of in the last 10 years, 15 years, how big the tea range is in Woolworths compared to 10, 15 years ago. I worked at a little happy high herb store and we had all these different herbs. So I was always brewing up different teas. And then when I got my like bachelor in health science and I was able to make tinctures and have tinctures, I used tinctures a lot, but I found probably after like 3 or 4 years, I went back to teas. Just there's something really special about making tea in water. And there's like this, I always drink tea, but I generally just drink rooibos tea because it's the best tea in the whole world. Oh, you ready? Are you ready? Waiting for that. Because you can mix it with every other tea because it's from Africa. But it's also high in antioxidants, so good for all the things. It's low in tannins, which means it doesn't go bitter like other teas can. And it's red, and red's a good color. But why I do like, because with the tannins, rooibos and honey, when it goes cold, it tastes delicious. So if you forget about it, and it's hot, and then you forget about it, it's really great. Yeah, that's pretty much why it's the best. And generally, I do rooibos tea bag and the chamomile tea bag, or a rooibos tea bag and the peppermint tea bag. And It's best. It just gives an all-round flavor. I've met like 2 or 3 people that don't like rooibos, and I don't understand them. I don't, because it doesn't really even have a flavor to me. It's kind of like blood that flows through my body. But I might be biased because I drank it before I could talk, so I kind of feel like, yeah, I'm missing a part of me when I don't have it. And every time I get sick, I'm like, it's because I haven't drank rooibos in like the last month or two. Okay, everyone's got tea now? Yes, okay. I think we should change. Oh, you can. And then we can change to another tea. Oh, you guys didn't read the instructions there. When you drink, you have to lift your pinky. Yeah.
There's rules. Oh, yum.
Yeah. It makes it a little bit more challenging if you're already battling to drink out of them. Hey, Sam.
This one.
Could you? Yeah.
Okay, if I go empty.
Yeah, please. This is need a little do a little jig on this. I don't know if it's gonna be useful. You know how to do it because there's 2 screws. All right. So teasers 1 and teasers fun. Teas are fun. Do you guys know any other preparations of herbs? What forms of like preparations have you guys had herbs in? As in
Chocolate.
cold packs. That's a really unique way. Tinctures. Yeah. Salads. Eating. Yeah, just eating it. Yeah. Into butters. Yeah. Oil infusions. Yeah. Smoke direct through the lungs. Soaps. Yeah, capsules. Grinding powders. Great. So I don't really need to even talk about that. You guys know it all. So yeah, essentially you've got like the decoctions, which are a simple way, and essentially if you're going into the sciencey side of it, you're getting all the water soluble constituents in the herbs in teas. So even when you make teas, there'll be some things that you might not actually fully absorb in it. Whereas with tinctures, which is with alcohol extracts, some old school witches just do like as strong as alcohol as you can get and push as much herb into it as you can, which is going to work to a certain degree. Or you can go like 50% like alcohol of grape and then like 50% water from a sacred spring, and you could go half of that, one from spring, one from rainwater, so you got like celestial and terrestrial water. You can go like real magical with it. And then there's the science side of it, where there's actually different constituents get extracted at certain percentages. So you can actually Google what percentage of alcohol for it. So what have I got here? I got bilberry, which is 23%. And bilberry is blueberries. So tasty. It's like blueberry liqueur. And then Malin is also 23%. And echinacea is 60%. So echinacea obviously is really good for and it has the alkylamide. So have you ever had echinacea and you get that tingle on your tongue? No? Oh, maybe we should do some tasters. Yeah. Hang on one sec, I'll be back. Oh yeah, I'll do a disclaimer. Thanks, Sam. When I get back. Oh yeah, just take my phone off out of it. Or maybe just use another. Yeah. Should be one in there. I've got a charger there. Around here, there's a. Yeah, cool. Just pass my phone.
Oh, I was going to keep recording.
Oh yeah, cool. I'll just put the case on it.
It's an open question sometimes.
Yeah, but I'll give you a really little dose. You can say no, and I don't mind. There's no peer pressure. But I wouldn't give you anything that's not good for you. Does anyone have any allergies though?
I'm allergic to bee pollen.
Bee pollen.
Legitimately allergic.
What about flowers?
But
Any particular flowers like daisies or but bee pollen specifically?
bee pollen, when I ate it, I went into anaphylaxis.
Oh.
Great.
Wow. Do you get hay fever?
Mhm.
Okay. So have you found that there's any like any flowering plants that give you like allergies? Like you've ever drank any like chamomile or?
No.
Okay. I wonder if it's the like maybe bees like their dirty feet maybe because the pollen's like on their feet and then you're eating it.
I don't know. I just had bee pollen once and it didn't end well. Well, it did end well, but I'm still here.
Okay. Interesting. So what I'm going to do is, we're talking about disclaimers. Sam gave you the disclaimer. Any questions on the disclaimers? The more I get to know people, the better I like dose them up with things. People who really know me, when I come up and I'm like, "You want some of this?" They would go, "Yes." And people who don't know me that well, they might go, And if I don't know someone, they're like, "What is that?" I'm like, I'll usually, it depends on the situation. But if I have to explain it, I'd rather not give it to you. But that's not the case here. I'm going to explain and answer all your questions here.
Yeah, specifically the allergy stuff. If you've got one allergy,
Is there anything that is going to affect pregnancy?
No. Are you pregnant?
Yeah.
Yay! Yeah. Congratulations. Hmm.
Very unexpected.
Oh,
Thought I was on the way out of that journey, but anyway.
that's exciting. Surprises. No, I'll let you know if there are any that are potential, but also anything on small amounts won't do. You shut my door as well. Thanks, man. So I'm going to come around and I'm just going to put like 2 or 3 drops on your tongue. Is everyone okay with that? It's echinacea, so that the thing it's going to do is it's going to make you better. But the fun part for me is it's going to make you like your tongue go all funny, and then there's nothing you can do about it. But the point of this is alkyl-amides are this tingle. So if you're drinking echinacea tea and you're not tasting the alkyl-amides, to the serious scientific herbalist, the echinacea is no good. Yeah, see, it's relevant. It's not just. It is, but it's also that because there's also this little like toothache plant. Oh, you got like 5. You always get more. Head back. Tongue out. Huh? No, just on the like under the tongue would be too strong. It would burn. Is it tingling? Is it working? Oh, warming. Nice. Oh, 2 straight up. This one. Oh, you got 2. You guys ready?
Oh, yeah.
Not under your tongue. On your tongue, or just head back. Head back. I'm going to give you a whole squirt just because I think it's going to be fun. I think you'll really enjoy it. If you get on the side of your tongue.
Oh, yeah.
You can also get this.
A pepper is like a pepper plant that
Get a job. I think it's. I never really noticed, but I find it really interesting how different people pull their tongues out in different
Yeah.
ways.
Like pointy or fat.
Does everyone want some more?
Does everyone want some?
Damn. Still tingly. Yeah. It's fun when you give it to people and they're like, oh, that's not that bad. You're like, wait for it. It's going to keep growing. Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool.
What's that? Yeah, well, all echinacea should actually have a tingle in it. Like that's because like in the science. Okay, so I'm gonna take. I'm not technically a health scientist, but also science is like kind of whack. Like it's important and it's also not because there's just like unless people are super into all of the science kind of sucks until you go into incorporating it all. Why I say that is because when I was learning biology, something that came up for me was that we we think we know about the body and the body has this and we have all these organs and everyone has the same organs. Where how do we actually know that we all have the same organs and they all do the same thing? So the lungs do this, the liver does this does this. Your tissues do this, the molecules do this, the atoms do this, then the electron's spinning around the atom, but how does the electron spin? And no one knows. So it's like, well, that's for me when I got that deep in, I was like, well, if you don't know that, like how everything else is kind of like made up, but the actual like bits of it ticking on. Why do I say that? I'm just trying to remember where I was going with the scientific rant. Because so in here the science is the alkyamides are the active ingredients of echinacea. So some scientists took echinacea and were like extracted all these ingredients and were like, which ones are going to increase the rat's immunity when we put this in, right? So they're saying that the alkyamides are what make echinacea echinacea. It's kind of like saying it's the caffeine that makes coffee coffee. But is it just the caffeine that makes coffee coffee? No, but if you drank a coffee that didn't have had low caffeine, it would have a different effect. So it's like if most people, especially people drinking instant coffee, they just want the caffeine hit. They're not going for the flavors and the all-round compounds, right? So yeah, like when you yeah. Well, I guess if it's over like cooked and roast with coffee, then there wouldn't be any more. They probably burnt it all off. Hopefully, you think so. It's another conversation. But so there is this like the science can take away some of the mysticism around it. So they say that alchemy used to be chemistry, or chemistry used to be alchemy, but they like took the spirit out. So you think of chemistry as alchemy, and you think of astronomy as astrology, and you think of like transpersonal psychology into psychology, whereas back in the day that transpersonal would be spirits and you're seeing things and that whole world is now just psychology. So they've taken the spirit out of it in the West, but it's coming back in. We're slowly dosing it back up. That's good. Yeah. So echinacea is cool because there's actually two types of echinacea in there, but echinacea is actually like Native American, and it has this root that grows really, really deep. So when they actually harvest echinacea, they got to dig this huge hole, like meter-long hole, to get the full root out to actually extract it. So I thought that was just an interesting tidbit around echinacea, and I wanted to share that bit around the actives because it's cool to know the stuff, but then also like if you are like your immune system's low and someone's like, oh, have you been taking echinacea? And you're like, yeah, I've taken echinacea, but you've been drinking a tea and you couldn't taste the alkyamides. There's a high possibility that could actually not even be echinacea because there's a whole realm in herbs where people are selling herbs that aren't the herbs, like the identification of herbs. Could be any what part, yeah. And-
Question about fire.
Mm.
I'm looking into it
Yeah.
and I grow myself. But do you have any recommendations for local? Like someone in Australia, or do you not care?
Oh, I always care
No, I think
about
like
everything.
specifically
Why I'm doing
feel
this.
it. You know, do you have people that you know where they grow it and how they grow it?
It's a great
the
question.
intention that they have when they grow it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking for.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate that. I know there is some Tassie farms. So if you Google some like this Tasmania, I think it's like it's not Sunrise, but there's another group. But for me, because I work with teas and herbs and tinctures, like when I source herbs for bulk to like make tea blends, I mainly just look for organic, and I have one supplier that I've been using for a long time. But then there is like local, where I just find local, especially in Australia, it's hard to find like a good range of herbs locally.
Yeah.
We're also changing that. We can grow our own. When it comes to tinctures, I pretty much use MediHerb, and when like in my practice, like as a herbalist and in consults, I use like practitioner ranges based on the fact that they clinically test them, and then they also scientifically test them. Not necessarily all organic, no. Some of them might be, but some of them aren't. So yeah, it's a different realm, I guess. I'm not solely just has to be organic, or just because it could be organic, but it could be the wrong type, or it could be like non-active. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. What are my thoughts around? I think that's really beautiful to set the intention, and also again, I play in like the mystical and scientific, and in the mystical, everything is vibration, so you can change everything with frequency. And with science, it's like if there's chemicals sprayed on and it's not organic, then you got to like wash the chemicals off in some way. So with veggies, you can wash them in like apple cider vinegar and stuff to get things off. Or Kangen water does it too. I don't have one, but I saw them do some really cool shit once. Um, so yeah, when it comes to herbs and also where it's grown, the thing is when it comes to intention, it's like I'm gonna drink an echinacea tea, but what if I just think about drinking an echinacea tea? Can I get the effects as well? Because that goes into other preparations, tinctures, teas, but then also flower essences. Everyone know what flower essences are, like Bach flower essences. So Bach and bush flower, and there's a whole bunch. There's Grailhaven up here as well. Is essentially getting the flowers and putting them in water, and the essence of the flower is going into the water. Generally, that process is done. You collect the flowers, or you sit with the flower and you meditate. What's its action? Like, what does it tell you? Connect with the diva. Um, and then you can pick it, ask permission, and then sit with it and meditate with that intention, right? So then it's in the flower and it's holding it. And then traditionally they'd preserve that with brandy, because brandy, one, is alcohol, so it's going to preserve it from going off. But brandy is also an alcohol based from grape, and the alchemists say that grape-based alcohols, spirit of grape, is the highest vibration. I can't really tell you why they just said it, but you also think of like the Romans and the Greeks with their grapes, and there's like Greek sacred secret societies, Eleusis, and like there's the whole lot of stuff that they were doing there that we're kind of doing now as a community. There's like all these different like ways of pushing our limits, whether through breath work or like expression or plant medicines or deep journeys or meditations. They were already doing this stuff back then. So they know stuff. So when it comes to flower essences as well, that's an essence, right? That's an essence that's being used. When I've studied it and I've made flower essences, and also got to a point where I was like, well, if it's like this, I can also just call on the plant. And what I found from that, of like learning it and using it, especially with the Australian bush flowers, like I don't use them, but I've studied them. But I'll go on bushwalks and then I'll see them and all of a sudden I'm like, that's a tabibua or that's a like Banksia. And I'm like, oh, that's, how do I feel right now? Oh, it's full like, it's got robust energy. Like I've just walked up a mountain and down to the bottom. Does that make sense? There's like this fine line when it comes vibrational. It's kind of like, yes, the vibration counts, but then like when you go into that realm, do we even need it? And then we are in this physicality, so we kind of do need it. So when it comes to organic, you can also then look at individual ingredients. Like broccoli, non-organic is probably like a wah wah because they spray a lot because it gets munched. Whereas avocados, I don't think it's that bad because they have that hard shell. Although they do get this funny rot and then they inject it with something that makes the rot go away. They could also do something into the fruits. But still, avocados are great. So I just eat them. And on the organic thing, it's like our world's not very organic.
Yeah.
So you're walking in the, in the streets and there's chemicals around. So yeah. So I guess my thought on that is to essentially be as less dogmatic around it as possible. Yeah. Because when I started making chocolate, it was like vegan, organic, gluten-free, all these things. And the people who are gluten-free, vegan, sugar, whatever, were the people that really annoyed me the most and took like joy out of it for me. So I really was just like, look, it is this and this and this, but I'm not that, and I'm not any of those things, and I just don't box it in because I feel like you miss the point. Yeah, that makes sense. It's organic. And then I've known organic companies that are like certified organic, and then they have people on the board that are organic, and then you look at the ingredients, 70% organic, but it's organic. It's like, what's the other 30%? So I don't know if we can trust labels,
Well, so
Yeah. And I think this is the perfect time for an interlude and eat some chocolate. So does anyone have any questions around clarity on different preparations? Prep, perhaps? No. Generally, I'd say drinking tea, having tinctures. For me, tinctures, especially Western, tinctures have always been around, even if you just drink some gin. Yeah. That was actually a joke, but that's okay. Yes? Yeah. It got me through COVID. Gin and tonic a day. Yeah.
If we're making pictures at home.
Oh. Yeah, okay.
Any thoughts? And also, did you want
Oh, yeah. So making tinctures at home, which is kind of relevant to gin actually. Like if you see the cultural rise in herbs and the rise of gin distilleries, that's a sign. The sign, because with gin you can do distillations of like different herbs into essentially gin is vodka that then gets herbs added to it. You can also soak the herbs in it. So tincture is herbs soaked in it. Whereas gin can be like that. Like, the pink gin and stuff like that. They actually soak the butterfly pea in it. So it's essentially a tincture, and then they'll also put other botanicals like the juniper and stuff in it. Can you ask me a question, Teddy, please? What is gin? Gin's an alcohol. Oh, essentially, like good gin's made out of like grape ethanol, but which is vodka. She knows what it is, Yanni. Like, can you grab a bottle? Yes, like here it is. Oh, here it is. Here's one in. It's essentially vodka. No, so vodka can be made out of anything as well. Yeah. It doesn't have to specifically be potatoes. Vodka is essentially like any alcohol that's distilled more than like 3 times. So it becomes more clean. And then gin, they're adding herbs, namely like juniper's the main one because it's good for everything and it cures everything, they say. But I've never really used it as a herbal medicine. It's in gin, so why?
So gin is just vodka with a juniper berry flavor.
Yeah. That's like the essence. Well, and what they do is they distill it and then they'll put like the juniper berries in this little like net and then they'll distill it to heat the alcohol, which would then go through the juniper and then back through all the little like fun tunnels and spinny things, and then it comes back in, and then those oils are captured in it. So then those are the flavors. And now they do like Kwandong, or they do like lemon myrtle. So there's all different flavors. So when you look at the botanicals, that's how essentially how they are adding the herbs to it. So
Yeah. Well, you can make,
like,
you can do
I wouldn't
the
say
gin
no.
distilling at home. Get a little still distillery thing and play with.
And a lot of the cool gin places will have like gin nights where you can make a gin as well. Yeah, I find them really, they all really cool. Like I know a few peeps. Tinctures. So with tinctures again, like making teas, the safest way to do your own tinctures would be just get a bottle of vodka, organic if you want, and then whatever herb it is that you want, and then just soak it. You know,
Make it in
in the vodka. Yeah. So vodka is usually about 40%. So you're kind of safe. You've got this like in between range of the percentage. You could get specific, like say you needed to do like a 23%, then you could dilute the vodka a bit. Or if you have a friend who homebrews, he could probably give you like straight vodka or straight alcohol. It'll probably be 95% because alcohol is hydrophilic, so it'll always absorb. No matter how pure alcohol is, as soon as you like open the bottle, it's going to take some water from them, like moisture from the air. So it's always going to be around 95. And then there's different ways of diluting that. But if you want to just be like, I made a tincture, it's almost fun to just have like your own vodka flavor that you make.
You would put the
Instead of
one
red
herb
skins, you've got.
You'd put the one herb in the vodka, soak it, and then
Strain it.
strain it, and then do the other one separately, and then mix them.
You could, or you could like say you got this tea, and you're like, wow, that water element tea was really nice. You could just soak all of that in vodka.
So you could make the blend first, and then make it into tincture, rather than do them separately and then combine.
Yeah, depending on how much space and how many bottles of vodka you have. Because it'd be nice to be able to go, I'm going to grab some of my lemon balm vodka and my Blue Lotus vodka. What do you mean? What tinctures specifically taste terrible?
Like I love it.
All tinctures taste terrible. Okay, I'm just gonna see if I can change that.
It's like a double dip.
Make it bland. Do you pay attention to, leaf, flowers, roots, they all have a different temperature?
As in, yeah, for teas,
The tea, yeah.
I do, but that's the thing with teas when you're making like an infusion. So these are more like infusions to drink, whereas decoctions is when you're like really brewing up. So if you have a bunch of root, you want to like brew the roots for like 20 minutes to get all of it out, right? Yeah.
So, this tea.
This is tea, just infusions. Yeah. So if it was like you go to Chinese medicine, and for me, I don't go, oh, you're sick, here, have all these teas and brew these teas up, and that's your medicine. If I use it as medicine, and this is my personal way, I use tinctures. So if you're sick and you want herbs, I'll mix you up a tincture because it's the Western way. Whereas Chinese medicine would use a lot more teas and funny tasting herbs and stuff, and mix all the stuff, and reishi mushrooms and all that stuff as well. And then you have this like big basket of herbs that you put on the stove and you cook it over time. So when it's this, it's like it's more you getting the light flavors out as well. The leaves will be, the roots won't extract fully, but I also know that like licorice root, I drink it as tea all the time just from boiling the kettle, and I always get relief from it. So it's doing enough. I don't need to brew it for like 20 minutes, And in saying that, it's great to have that, because I also, some people like just have their tea and they just have it in there for like 10 seconds and then they take it out. I never do that. I just leave my tea bags in water to soak for as long as possible. But that's also like preference, So it's like, and overall you get to choose. And I think there's this huge range here of we just do it daily because we're herbs. We're kind of like complex plants, but we're connecting in with herbs every day, similar to like growing them as well. Like when you grow them and you're harvesting them yourself, they're going to be great to like nourish your system, but not necessarily going to be there to, if you're really sick, if you're really sick and dying, I'm just going to go to the garden and get some lemon balm, I don't prescribe that for people. It's like, if you're really dying, go to the doctor, or at least speak to a herbalist and get some strong stuff, Or you say doctors.
Yeah, well, because I just had a really bad accident 11 years ago and my organs were all reorganized.
Oh wow.
Excuse the pun.
Wow.
And yeah, it is the herbs that have saved my life.
Totally.
Yeah, definitely. My destination was just, and just wanted to sedate me. That's all.
Yeah. But if you're like dying, it's always good to go to the, like, I'm not telling you to go to the doctors because I don't go to doctors. I sometimes, but I'm very rarely like dying. It's such a weird thing to be like. Essentially, the herbs work on helping us to build our systems up, right? And also, if the more you work with herbs, you're less likely to get sick. And then over time, it's going to actually build your system instead of just killing the pain. But what I'm saying there is like, if you're growing your own or just sourcing your own and you're not getting effects, it might also be because it's not enough or you're not growing it properly. And then that's where there is like, this is almost like, to some hippies, MediHerb is like evil because they're like a pharmaceutical company for herbs. But then for these guys, they're still the pharmaceuticals. So it depends on what stage in the ladder you're at, and then there's some people like, don't you dare ever buy cough syrup, even if it's going to give you relief, So for me, I like to play in the realms of, I don't buy cough syrup. I personally haven't been vaccinated in like 15 or 20 years. Yeah, 20 years. Even when I went to Peru, I didn't. Like, we got away from that. So it's not even like, oh, it's this thing. But I'm like, that's just the way that I live, and I don't judge people for doing it if they do it. And that conversation can get really like complex, and it's the same thing. Some people be like, this is what's happening, but I don't think anyone really knows what's happening. All right, airtime. Okay, I'm gonna do this first, not yet. So this is a tincture. I'm gonna start with Teddy just because she was like nothing ever. How dare you say never?
Sorry.
And have you ever had Chambord? Raspberry liqueur?
I didn't think so.
Okay, try this.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
Yeah?
And
Good?
that's
It's a tincture.
a tincture.
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
That's epic.
So blueberry is good for your circulation. It's good for your eyes, brain, all the things blueberries are good for. You ready? This one is, but not all of them. Oh, blueberry. Head back a bit. Just, oh, it's gonna pour in. Yep. Ooh. We can, but I'll probably just brush over it. I'm losing. You still got some. I gave you some, right? Tinctures are alcohol. Right. That's why every time I get drunk, it's like, it's a tincture pretty much. Like I put so many different things in it. I put lemon balm, mint's like medicinal. So like having mint in your mojito is like the herbal way. Yeah. Good. Yes, everyone had some. Sam hasn't had some. Oh, blueberries. Yeah. Okay. So alcohol and tinctures technically are the same. And here's a little fun fact: beer. I brewed some beer with a friend. I have a friend who started a brewery down on the coast called Black Hops. It's quite big. He was going to actually come because he's got some liqueur-y, tincture-y things that he distills as well. But when I made beer with him, we made a herbal beer. We called it Black Magic. It was a chocolate stout with mugwort and licorice and rooibos. But when I was making it, how did I tell the story? I was making it, I was like stirring it, and the thing is like, this is called the wort. You know, you're mixing the wort. But it splashed and went on his face, and I was like, you have wart on your face. Like warts on your face like a witch, right? So as I was stirring, making the beer, I was like, wow, like thinking about witches and how they work with herbs. And how they say that the witches used to brew all the beer, and then the church, was like, hey, you can't do that anymore. It also ties in with like the witches brewing all the medicines, essentially, like even the Kykeon and Eleusinian mysteries. Has anyone looked into the Greek mystery schools? No? Okay, I'll come back. But yeah, so beers, there's actually laws. The German purity law states that beer now can only be water, yeast, hops, and barley. Otherwise, it's actually technically not a beer. And that was by like, who was it? It was a German, I think it was like a pope. Don't quote me on this, but when I was looking into it, that they made this law, beer purity law, which essentially cuts out putting any other herbs into beer. Right? Except for hops, which is just like sedating. But hops is also good. Don't let anyone tell you bad things about hops. So, yeah, beer's one of those that would have been medicinal. And now when you look at the beers that are out there, people are mixing different things with it as well. So then when you look at the different types of vodkas and, do you like Jägermeister? No? That has like, no? Yes? Oh, so good. So Jägermeister has like 70 different types of herbs, and they tell you 30 of them and like 40 of them are secret. And that's probably only like 30% accurate in my statistics of what I just said there. But yeah, so it's essentially like an aperitif. Thanks. When I was a little young wizard, and I used to drink a lot when I was like 18, and I used to drink Jägermeister in between a drinking session. So I start drinking at like 11, and then around 3 o'clock, have some shots of Jägermeister, and then my stomach would settle, and then I'd keep drinking. And I was like, someone told me that it was like drinking law, and they talk about LORE, like this is what we're talking about here, herbal law. Drinking law, when you like hang out with a bunch of people that you drink with a lot, and they're like, this helps you, or you like wake up hungover and they're like, hair of the dog, have a beer, make you feel better. You're like, oh yeah, it works. So it's the energetic thing. But essentially all tinctures could be alcoholic, A little side note, like this is just private. All those little like elixir bars, there's like a small bit of you getting drunk. Like, oh, I'm getting a tincture of this herbal, it's way better, and they're getting away with it, but ultimately, like, you are getting drunk the more of those you drink. It's like, most of those are like at least 30% to 40% alcohol, and they're putting like 5 mils in. A shot would be 30, so it's less, but you're still kind of getting drunk. Oh, so this one that you're currently sipping on, can anyone guess what element it is? Oh, yeah. So this one is, I don't know what's in it. Let's smell and tell me what's in it before. What can you smell? There we go. Before, wait. Mint? What type of mint? Oh, spearmint. What else?
Marshmallow.
Yes, Carmen. Pay attention. So this one's the air blend. So this one's really focused on herbs for the lungs. So the spearmint is really good, also for digestion, but also opens the airways and the lungs. The marshmallow root is a demulcent. The demulcent soothes the mucous membrane. So also good for the lungs because the lungs are a big chunk of mucous membrane. Essentially, mucous membrane runs from your mouth to your bum, like you're like a donut filled with mucous membrane. So when you drink demulcents, they're soothing the mucous membrane. What else is in there? Lemon balm. Close, Chevy. So lemon balm. Does anyone know what lemon balm's good for? It's getting trendy, which I like. Lemon balm?
Yeah.
What's it good for?
What's it for?
Yeah, that's what I asked.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah. Really nourishing. So good for sleep. Also antiviral as well. Yeah. That's one that I just grow in the garden because it grows quite well and goes well with like, instead of putting like mint into mojito, put lemon balm into mojito. Good. And also it has like this affinity for me with the heart as well, lemon balm. It kind of, for some reason, it has this effect of being like a bee. And it's like warming, like a warm buzzy feeling that it gives you, like in the heart space as well. So it's a really nice, nourishing one. Melissa officinalis is its botanical name. And in alchemy, it's used for a lot of really strong extractions, for all sorts of magical things as well. Yeah. What else is in it? Is there another one? Mullein. So mullein's a really great herb for getting rid of mucus, but it's also expectorant. So expectorants clean out the lungs. And like Yanni said, as different ways of getting in, like smoking. Back in the day, they would actually smoke mullein and coltsfoot and things like this for bronchitis. So someone would have bronchitis and be coughing and then, smoke this. Expectorant is something that increases the coughing reflex. Just so you know, when you're having a cough and you've got stuff in your lungs and you're coughing but nothing's coming out and you're like, oh God, there's something there, that will help just actually get that out and get a productive. That helps for a productive cough. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know on mass that they do it specifically. Yeah. Maybe. But it also has that, it's also demulcent, so it's also soothing for the mucous membrane. I'd say it's like one of those number one herbs. Harder to get because of the respiratory thing that's been going around. So everyone's after it. Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, well, it's kind of like the word shaman, right? Like, do shamans actually call themselves shamans? Some maybe in Siberia, so maybe some witches call themselves witches. Yeah. Irish. Irish. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. I actually don't know, and I know some people still don't like being called witches, and some people really like being called witches. And what is a witch? Yeah. And which witch is which? Yeah. Oh wow, yeah, okay. I see what you're doing there. Political debates. But yeah, I don't actually know, but I think generally like medicine woman or medicine man. But then it's just like, where does medicine come from? So we're going to etymology. That placed it. They're a witch. Oh yeah, you mean it's kind of like blasphemous or like in a bad way? Kind of like marijuana. You know, the word marijuana is all part of like a campaign to ban cannabis. it's cannabis. It's not like marijuana is like this whole stigma around it. Like there was actually all the negatives. So maybe witches are the same as that. Yeah. You don't have the problem with it. Yeah. Yeah. Don't know, but I think in general, like we were talking energetics, English language is pretty like low vibrational anyway. So any words that are in the English language is like, meh. Like let's just like blah 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 blah. You know, whales must be like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like you're not operating on the higher frequencies when you've got like Sanskrit and those sorts of things. Like when you chant those sounds, the vibration is greater, right? Do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question about mountain herbs. Can you still, I can imagine
When smoking it,
you know, because there's just like how we can take tea, oils,
mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that's so fun in my mind.
Yeah, it changes it. So, for example, with Malin or like Coltsfoot or these ones that you can smoke, I would still say better to drink it as a tea, but you'll find that when you do smoke, it does give relief. So it might not be as effective as drinking tea. So with Malin, when I walked the Camino, it was growing. So I was walking in Spain, like 800 kilometers, and finding like Malin, which is this great herb that I had, and I was smoking at the time and had a cough. And I was like, oh, Malin, like, yo, what's up? And I put on my backpack and then I was mixing it in with my tobacco. So I didn't stop smoking. And then I was smoking that blend and that helped my cough. And I even had pilgrims who were walking with me that were like, what's on your back? And I was like, oh, it's Mullen. Like, and then I'd stop and every night we would drink like a bottle of wine or two. And, you know, people would chat. And there's one guy who was like, what are you putting in there? And I gave it to him. And a few days later I saw him and he said, hey, my cough's gone. He had a cough. So he didn't stop smoking. He put the Malin in and it helped. So then that, you know, allowed his curiosity to go, oh, here's German. And then he was like, it's called like German flame in Germany or the King's flame. And then he showed me all these pictures. So like now I associate that as well. So that's kind of also the law. You teach one person, the person comes back and gives a feedback. So, and again on smoking, you could see it like with tobacco and hape, there might be a difference in there, or even inhaling it or not inhaling it, because you're going to get nicotine in whether you inhale it or not. And then also with cannabis, like smoking it gets you high, but you can also vaporize it. And they're showing now the medicinal uses of cannabis. When you vaporize it, you can pretty much like vaporize such a small percentage, which are the medicinals that will get you like into altered states. And what's left, someone could roll in the joint and still get high. But it's just what is it specifically used for? So it's a good question. It's like around combusting things and burning them, or same as like if you put like 90% alcohol instead of 20% alcohol, that other bit of alcohol could damage what you're having. So it becomes a specifics and also accessibility. If someone's sick and they don't want to stop smoking, like I used to be, like I only breathe fresh air now. Hypnosis. But when I used to get sick and I didn't want to stop smoking, because I used to like, you know, be sick, coughing, and still want to have a cigarette. You know, that's stupid. But I'd just put my linen and Coltsfoot and I had these blends and smoke it that way. And then also being at Happy High Herbs, giving people other smoke blends. People wouldn't, like if I just go, if you're a smoker and you're smoking tobacco and I go, here, smoke this, Mullin, a full joint, you're going to cough and be like, that sucks. So I'd just be like, hey, put a little bit in, like slowly build up your blend opposed to just like messing up your whole mix. You know, I was like the smoking guy at Happy High Herbs. I just did all different smoke blends for everything. Smoke blends for energy, smoke blends for like relaxation, smoke blends for aphrodisiacs, all the things in different blends, and then how to get people onto it. Yeah, the chocolate's way better than smoking. I think. Yeah. Oh, we didn't even get to chocolate yet. All right, thanks for keeping me on track, Sam. Does everyone want some chocolate? It's a perfect segue. I hadn't even talked about cannabis yet. Now there's cannabis chocolate. So before anyone gets too excited or too worried, it's a hemp. Yeah, you can hand it out. It's a hemp seed and hemp protein chocolate. The reason I made that one is because cannabis is such a diverse plant that holds such, definitely not following my run sheet, but keeping it alive as it is. So yeah, just eat it. Like you can eat. The good thing about chocolate is you can just eat it, and it's going to make you feel good. And then you can do a ritual and change your life. But essentially, that is from hemp seeds, essentially, which don't contain any THC, if anything, like really low doses, but high in protein, high in essential oils. It's pretty much like a superfood. And it's a plant that I really loved for a long time and put down for a while. And I think it's time that it's really time for it to be like coming into the light, and I'd like to inspire people to look into it more. And it doesn't have to be the scary thing that gets you high and stoned. It's like, that's a nourishing chocolate, eh? That's pretty much like a hemp milk chocolate, because the hemp protein is like a milk powder. So it's a bit more creamy, and nourishing you up. And then there's also CBD, which is non-psychoactive, but great for pain, great for all sorts of things like nutrition. And then THC derivatives, which are helpful for like cancers and tumors. But also all of the plant is also good for actually connecting with spirit. So it's made its way from like being in our lives, I don't know how many years ago, but then that whole campaign on marijuana and cutting it out, there's whole theories around that of why it was, whether it was like the forestry or the oil, because you can use it for everything. But then coming back as hemp for food, building clothes, and then become legal as medicine. And then in the States, it's recreational. But I think the next step of that is also then seeing it as a sacrament again, because I like to work even as a wizard as food, medicine, sacraments, and then currencies, is essentially how chocolate was used by the Mayans. And if you look at cannabis, I'm going to stop talking about cannabis after this, and I'll swing back. But it's also like, as a plant spirit, it's on the stock market. So it's like it has multiple entities that are worth billions of dollars as well. So there's a lot of plants out there, but cannabis is the big gun, and it's pretty chilled, pretty cool, compared to like opium or, yeah, yeah, and how it's integrated into it as well. Like I'm wearing it, it's in me. Plus, there's companies that are helping polling the government so it can be accessible. And I think even those companies are helping the legalization of psychedelics and stuff as well, which is good for all humanity. That's my cannabis speech. Just a little one. Questions?
When I technically visit and I feel high, I do get high.
Yeah,
And also
differently though. Yeah.
So is that just because I'm being like nourished? And then is that because there's some what do I call it? Like, something's not malnutrition in my system that's being nourished. Like, is that the high feeling?
It's a good question. So with cannabinoids in particular, it's hard to answer the question of how they work, because what a lot of people don't know is that we have like a cannabinoid system in our body, which is not just receptors like for the psychedelics. We have the receptors, so of course we're meant to have them. There's whole systems that are integrated into every other system. So by not nourishing our cannabinoid system for so long, it's like not paying attention to our respiratory system or our cardiovascular system or anything like that. So it's affected our overall health as a race. So when you start having it again, yeah, that feeling could be because it's like anti-inflammatory and it's helping with stress and anxiety, so that weight's being taken off. And it could be because it's just a multivitamin. But I feel for me with CBD, I think everyone should have it. I think it should just be a vitamin.
It's like a treat feeling,
Ah.
Same if you can.
Ah. Dangerous if you're not being honest with people around you.
Oh, it's just, yeah, it's like, oh, honestly, not to
Right? So it's helping you like put your honesty out.
Yeah.
Just the way that you like linguistically have to share the honesty.
do.
That's what I've had to do. Add filters, but certain filters that are still truthful, but say it in a gentler way. Yeah. Yeah. There's no plan for that I know of. Yeah.
That's probably why she's like, put the chamomile on your rifle.
Ah, just bathe in it. Right. So we've covered some preparations. The other thing that I didn't speak about in preparations was homeopathics. Does everyone know what homeopathics is? So homeopathics is essentially like diluted herbs or substances that get diluted so much that only their essence is left. And then you're having like 3 drops under your tongue 3 times a day. So it's also on a vibrational level where it's working in on your etheric fields, or your causal plane, or whatever you believe those outer fields are. But kind of like the flower essences, but the flower essences are just in the flowers. Homeopathics also have been around for a long time. It was actually the medicines that I grew up on. So just another way of vibrational medicine being used. You see it, and again, scientifically, there's actually no physical substance left in the dilution, but it just works. So with herbs as well, it's like, is it just placebo, and does it matter? Like, can it just be added on with placebo as well? Like, can we just add placebo into things? And I really like that within herbs as well. It's not very scientific, but if you add more placebo, if you feel like having a fan and some crystals around when you drink it, it's going to help because you believe it, then great. If you like put love hearts towards it and like visualize it, or like drinking water. I like drinking water and pretending it's coming straight out of a waterfall. Yeah. Spritjerix. Okay, just for you. Okay, so there's also a class of medicines called spritjerix, which are like a form of alchemy. So they're just like the lesser circulation in alchemy. So alchemy is actually, I'll just pre-frame it. So alchemy is actually a huge topic. There's actually the most books written on topic, and it's alchemy. So there's different types of alchemy that people talk about, and there's the deep work, and what I call like the real alchemists who don't call themselves alchemists, you don't really see them, and then those that call them alchemists, which are kind of like alchemists, but they're not really alchemists because alchemy is secret. So spigerics are in the herbal vegetable kingdom version, where what we'll be talking about, there's essentially vegetable kingdom, the plant kingdom, and the mineral kingdom that you can work with, essentially transmuting form, so raising vibration. So spigerics work with astronomy as well, astrology. So essentially they're taking, in alchemy it's fun because they believe that nature is imperfect and man's here to make it perfect. So what they do in their different formulas is they'll take a herb and they'll separate it into different parts through a process, and then also put it back together in a different process, and it's different and more magical, essentially. Does that make sense? Is this interesting where I'm going with it? Okay. So within spigerics, what they're doing on a level that you'll mainly see is they separate into 3 forms: sulfur, mercury, and salt. So if you want to translate this, the mercury is the ethanol, so the alcohol. The sulfur is the essential oil, and the salt is like the body or the leftover of the plant. So essentially they're separating different parts of the plant. So how they would do this, as an example, is they would first distill the plant and get all the essential oils out. This is known as the sulfur. It's actually, sulfur is not like sulfur, the substance sulfur. It's just like a code word, and then they have a really cool symbol. with like a triangle on top of a plus. So it's kind of like Venus, but with a triangle on top. Again, I'm just brushing over this huge topic where there's all these different books, and the codes could be different in different books. And then there's Mercury, which does look like Mercury, the symbol Mercury, but not the Mercury like the metal. It's not that. Which has your little like circle with a little like line on the top and a plus sign. So that's your ethanol. So what they would do is they would get the essential oils out first, sulfur, and then they would throw some yeast into it to ferment it, and then distill that, get the alcohol out. So then that alcohol is the alcohol spirit of whatever plant it was. So before, when I said the spirit of grape, that's the thing, like alchemists would prefer to use grape, which is wine. Like if you distilled wine, you'd get a pure alcohol, which would be the same as all the alcohols, because they say that all the mercury is the same in all the plant kingdom, but grape has the highest vibration. So it means it's all the same, like the spirit is the same, but different vibrations, if that makes sense. And then once that's been taken out, then they'd essentially light that on fire, it would burn up, and then they'll calcinate it. So they'd burn it down to ash and grind it down until it goes from ash to a salt. So then they say this is the body. So if you look at those three forms, we have our body, we have the spirit, that thing that's breathing us when we're not paying attention to our breath, and it's probably the same that's breathing all of us. And then there's the soul, which is our unique soul that's in the body. That's the essential oil. So you've got those three parts now, and then they mix that in different ways, essentially back into a spagyric tincture. And how they do it, every plant has a planet and every planet has a plant. So then you'd make the tinctures based on what plant you're wanting and what planet do you associate that plant with. And how they do that is like through the mythology of the planets. Is this getting deeper for people? Going fast. Okay. So the association like with the planets would be like the mythology of the planet, you know, so what stories have been told about it. Also the actual plant, like what's the phytochemistry of that plant, and then also like doctrine of signatures. So being able to look at those things and go, okay, this plant, for example, lemon balm's ruled by Jupiter, and you can start to get different associations with that. Like, who is Jupiter? What did he do? You know, what other associations of gods were that energy coming into it? And then you can also divide that into the days of the week, times of the day. So then, like, depending on spagyrics, it's like what you can do is you can make a tincture with your vodka, you know, if you want to make a quick one. And then when you strain it off, burn that, grind that ash down, and just keep heating it and grinding it, and then put it back into your vodka once it's like into a salt, and you essentially have a spagyric tincture. That's like on the essence, but it doesn't have the essence of it. You know, for me, you do it all in private. You know, that essence you're making, you wrap up. You know, and all your intention on that product is to help and relieve suffering. That's it. So alchemy mentors that I've had they never sell their spagyrics. So for me, even when I buy a spagyric, I'm like, great, this is a tincture with some ash in it. It's got a bit of magic, but it's not the essence, because somewhere in there's still an essence of I'm selling this to make money from it. For me, tinctures, I sell people these tinctures because I buy them. The things that I make, I'll just give spagyrics away because it's a different energetic. It starts to become very vibrational. So when you're getting something, it's like, I've also seen different companies over time where people have made spagyrics and then the person has been really sick, and I also find that really weird. Like, there's a lot of people making spagyrics and selling them, but it's like you start to access a different vibrational world that takes a lot to ground in. Was there anything specific within that you'd also like more information?
He's burning design to bring it in. I'm like, I feel like one he's like obviously you and I talked about it, and like it's not
Yeah.
I'm just digging into it. Like, no, you need to get into it. I'm like, okay, maybe talk about spirit. So,
yeah, I feel like it's bringing in like the flower essences and aromatherapy and tinctures, because it's like it's almost not scientific, but they have also shown that it does change, like it does increase the efficacy of tinctures, because you're bringing the whole back in and it's being made with more intention. You know, it's like this echinacea's probably not like handpicked with someone going, this is going to heal someone's immune system. And then it's not by a full alchemist that's doing this. It's probably harvesting a lot amount. Then they're testing a little bit to make sure it's got the alkyl amines in. And it's going into a big tank to soak, getting purified, and then bottled. Boom, boom, boom. But it's medicine. Whereas on the other side, you've got the spagyrics, which proper spagyrics would be like you plant that seed of Jupiter for the lemon balm on a Thursday, which is the ruling planet day of Jupiter, at the time at sunrise or the hour of Jupiter. Then you water it every Jupiter day at Jupiter time, and that's the only time you visit it. Then once you've harvested, you harvest it on Jupiter day, Jupiter time, and then you put it in, and when it's sitting soaking in the alcohol, when you go sit and you go sit with it in a room that has no EMFs around, then you're shaking it and you're spending time with it in that Jupiter hour on the Jupiter day. Probably even more with like whatever's happening planetarily. So that's what they would be doing. And then when you serve it, then that's what it is. So yeah, I feel like it's something in the field now because it's becoming more trendy with herbs and that. And for me, I guess my intention is that people just connect with plants generally more. And I think their potency's in it. So in that, speaking about that can segue into just like properties of like different plants. So we spoke a bit about like chamomile, but within the realms of, where do I go from here? All right.
I have a quick question about the homeopathic.
Yeah.
Like the tinctures, that's something that anyone can do by themselves as well. Not like a complex process. With a piece of intention.
And then just like vodka. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's the same thing with like this cylinder.
For spagyrics or for tinctures?
No,
Homeopathics are diluted.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother process. Yeah, like they're essentially adding the vibrational essence to it. Like I can't actually explain the process. I've never made homeopathics, but they're now in like big machines, and then they use certain machines. Yeah.
To get the certain thing, and I think you're getting
Get it out.
what you use, yeah.
All witchcraft. Yeah.
Also, a question about the air element tea.
Oh.
So you said like the.
That's nice. Okay, after fire, that would be good.
I have a question with the air. So, like you said, with the ether, it's like more broad and expansive effect on the body. And my sense is with the air, it's like just the breath and breathing, and then more like mental clarity.
Oh.
Happens with the air. Like the intention of that one.
Yeah, that's pretty good. We'll go with that.
Okay.
Yeah. What did you say again? Did you write it down? Because I can put it as a description.
With the breathing, having the breath in the lungs,
Yep.
and then the mental clarity.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like the lungs are essentially opening us to spirit more. The more we breathe, the more life's in us as well. Yeah. Which then also opens up.
I see it like steam as well, like vitality, because it's like, fire can burn out with fire and air can burn with steam, so that's your vitality, like your sustainability.
Yeah, nice. Again, Law, I'm so happy with like people's perspectives on it because I just made these yesterday. Oh, does it? Yeah. Fire. Well, I mixed these ones up yesterday, but actually like created them a while ago. But generally, yeah, also like in elemental, like they teach elemental living, which is a process connecting with the elements. And when you connect in with air, it is through your breath, essentially, because you're coming from that ether space, which is everything, and you're starting to make your way into the denser form, but air is you still connecting in with spirit, and you can actually connect that through your sense of touch. So feel your breath. If you start breathing now, and you start actively breathing, can you feel like all of a sudden you can feel your feet tingling and your hands tingling and energy moving through your body? It's through your breath and how your breath can direct intention and move things through your body. So having your mind awake and your lungs open, you're allowing air to flow through you and your intention to flow through as well. If that makes sense. Well, through your bloodstream and also through your energetic pathways, because they even say like your meridians are plasma. So it's not actually water, because we don't have water in our system. We actually have plasma. So they've actually been able to find these little pathways where our meridians do run. But then there's other pathways in this Chinese medicine that you can't see, but they're more energetic, like the extraordinary vessels as well. So the breath can allow you to access those greater states, kind of like with sound as well. Sound and intention equals healing, essentially. It's to a certain frequency you have plus that intention. And we are just like big orchestras of sound. Our liver's vibrating at a certain frequency, and our lungs are. So we're just like this dance party that's walking around. How's everyone feeling energetically? You ready to go outside for a little bit? Yeah. Need some breath out there. Into pee.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. Is this all useful so far? Yeah. Great. Exciting and useful. Next blend is fire. So ginger, calendula, and lemongrass. So ginger is amazing, and actually has a lot of different uses in a lot of different cultures. And dried ginger has different properties to fresh ginger. Generally, dried ginger is a lot hotter in constitution in Chinese medicine. The good thing I like about ginger is it gets your circulation going. And if it's getting your circulation going, everything's meant to be getting where it needs to go. So generally, like in tinctures, I'll add ginger just to get things moving, just as an additive. I might also give you guys some ginger later. Just ginger tincture is so intense. Like it's stimulating. It's like hot. Like wow. Like wild. But ginger also has this a great effect. It's a good thing to know. Like in Chinese medicine, it gets rid of sneaky wind. So sneaky wind, if you like, have you ever like had an experience where you're a bit cold and then you get like that shiver and then you get sick? Have you guys ever have you ever noticed that happens?
Like a chill.
You get a chill, and then like, oh, yesterday I had that chill, now I've got a sniffy nose, and now I feel like this, and
The wetness gets stuck in.
something in there, yeah. But yeah, it's not so much wetness. It's actually, they call it sneaky wind in Chinese medicine, where the wind actually gets in, and they say it actually gets in through like this back channel here, which is also where they say spirits can enter. But then that sneaky wind goes in and causes all sorts of havoc in your body, and you get sick. But ginger helps it get out. Yeah, ginger's like, get out, whoever you are, and the wind's like, I'm out.
What is the most potent? Like you said, like is it fresh or dry? Because I will sometimes just have ginger powder because it's lazy.
Yeah. Ginger powder is generally hotter and more drying. Yeah, and fresh isn't. So it depends on the constitution. And but that's Chinese medicine subtleties of energies, which I kind of work on. But when I go that much into energetics, I'd rather work with acupuncture points and sound. Yeah.
Do the medicinal/scientific benefits change between like fresh herbs
Yeah, it depends on it again. It depends on the herbs, but generally drying will increase potency because there's less water. Yeah. Some constituents may be lost. Not so much with drying, but how it's dried. So if you think of if you think of essential oils and things like that, if you're drying them into too much heat, the essential oils are going to evaporate out. So there's going to be less volatile oils in it. But volatile oils are also oils, so they'll still stay in the plant, you know. So yeah, the same as just a drying and fresh. So if you were to make like a butter extract or an oil extract of say rosemary, if you dried it and then put it into say olive oil, that would extract all the oils of rosemary in. But if you use fresh rosemary, then you'd have bits of water in that, which would, mess with the oil and then potentially harbor bacteria because bacteria loves water. That's why we're here. So yeah, it can damage it, but it's also then how long and then how it's stored. Like glass is best to be stored as well. Yeah, does that make sense? Oh, what do you guys think of fire? Hot. Too hot for me right now. Yeah. Yeah, well, calangia's got that. It does soothe and help regeneration. So it's that transformation, of the old dead cells into new cells. Also, calendula, like the shiny flowers, very much ruled by solar rule, but just in a different way. Like fire can be healing and fire can be damaging as well. So yeah, it is a nice one. It's also one of those common names, marigold. Mary's pot of gold. Yeah. Does that make sense? With the fire?
Oh yeah, that's just like I was surprised because I don't think I've ever seen calendula plant. I mean, it's just been like, oh, you've got a seed plant, it's your calendula.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't seen the plant.
Yeah.
But skin complaint is like the fire coming out. So like it has to come out first. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. And it's also good with herbs being able to like balance things that are happening. It's not like this herb specifically just does this. There's always like a coming into your system. It's like the pollen, the bee pollen giving you that. The bee pollen might be increasing your immunity, and then there might be some like autoimmune thing that's being triggered because all of a sudden there is already an autoimmune dysregulation there, and now all of a sudden the immune system's like, let's go, and then that's what goes.
Yeah, to me, like that's going to be my greatest medicine is going to be the bee pollen, but I need to figure out how to do it safely so I don't end up.
Totally.
But like because like
one grain at a time. Yeah, said one grain at a time. Also, look into just have a look into the herb eyebright. Can be really good for sinus stuff and allergy. Yeah, it's a good one.
Like I'm allergic to cats, but my totem animal's cat. Like so, it's kind of like, do you know what I mean? It's like it's just my poison is one medicine.
Yeah. Yeah. With that, there's also like looking into different medicinal mushrooms and their effects on autoimmune. Because for me, any allergies, this is my own. Like I just put them in the category of autoimmune because of the body's attacking itself in some way. So any overreaction, it's like the immune system's in dysregulation. So there's certain ways to like regulate that. And the best way I've seen that is with certain medicinal mushrooms, like reishi, cordyceps, shiitake, maitake, and turkey tail. Like those 5 together are pretty amazing across the board for like respiratory complaints and all autoimmune stuff. I spoke about this at the talk that I did with Sam as well. So reishi, cordyceps, turkey tail, shiitake, maitake. That's the 5. It's cute. Mushroom worlds. Oh, how do you say it? Whoa. Shiitake, maitake. Better? Okay, cool. Alright. Cute, yeah, thank you. Oh, it is cute. Okay, that's cute. Little mushrooms. I can see like little mushrooms laughing at me going, oh, you're so cute. But yeah, I also see mushrooms as like a different level to herbs. So I don't even try to understand them. I see them just in a dream space, you know. Shiitake is very much like going, oh, that's not cute. That's just funny. Okay. Is like good for the immune system, but it's not like what echinacea probably is too. Echinacea is more like checking the system's running, you know, so you can have echinacea daily and then up the dose when you get sick. You can just keep it as like keeping the immune system regulated. Old law would be like don't take an echinacea because it's like an antibiotic, but science has showed different, and law that I've learned from other herbalists shows different. But anyway, with shiitake, because it's essentially like mushrooms are almost like bacteria as well. They're kind of in that class, and we're this bacterial mass that they have the opportunity to come into our systems and reprogram things. So they're not like, oh, we're going to make sure you're running this operating system. They're like, is this the right operating system? And like opening the computer and being like doing this instead of putting a CD in and downloading something, which is a herb. So they're like the technicians almost, you know. And same with like reishi would be the nervous system in a way, but they all tend to link in with the immune system. And then there is something there that I can't quite articulate on what's happening there, but I also know that there's a key place. It's like digestion, nervous system, immune system. Yeah. Oh, extraordinary vessels are that's acupuncture. Extraordinary vessels are like the trunk of the tree. I'll drop this before we go outside because we're going to go outside. If you imagine kidneys in Chinese medicine are like the roots of the tree. It's like where all our like energy are from. And then you've got the branches of the tree, which are our meridians and how they flow. Extraordinary vessels are like the trunk. So even in like Western acupuncture, which is in hospitals and stuff, they just look at it as like it's physical manipulation. You're putting it in, and there's no other energetics. They don't even teach it. But when you go into the Taoist stuff, then you've got the extraordinary vessels, which are also tied into the I Ching, and those primary 8 conditions as well. So it ties in where you can then nourish those extraordinary vessels, which will simultaneously nourish your kidneys plus the meridians. Whereas even in acupuncture, it's like once your kidney chi's gone, it's gone. But in Taoist, no, it's not. So again, the energetic pieces of like, this is how we are as humans in this form, but then we can also do these like light beings, ascending masters, or like, you know, remembering our godlike natures. Somewhere in between, there's probably our personalities that are like, well, I shouldn't drink, but I'm gonna drink. Yep. All right. Well, I didn't eat any chocolate. Did you guys like the chocolate? What effect did you get from it? Would you like more?
The effect is like an inner smile.
In a smile.
Yeah, like I feel like a smile here and a smile here.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Cacao. Cannabis and cacao. Oh yeah. It's like 2 hugs. You're getting a cacao hug plus a cannabis hug. It's pretty delicious.
The cacao hug's like down here. That hug is up here.
I like how fluent everyone is in cacao. It really opens up the plane of talking about things because I kind of like started making chocolate with herbs in it just for that response that everyone likes chocolate, and then I could put herbs in it, and then like all of a sudden blew up where like cacao just kept being like yes, yes, and everyone's like cacao, cacao. I'm like, what about the other plants? So now that people have had the cacao experience, the other plants can express themselves better, and I can articulate it better as well. Because cacao, in my understanding as a chocolate wizard, which is what my full-time occupation is it's a mediator. And it's a mediator between the ether and the earth.
Yeah.
Kind of like humans, right?
Yeah.
When we're in our heart and in our passion. So cacao was gifted in the streaming, to the Maya by Kukulkan. So Kukulkan is also like Quetzalcoatl, the winged serpent being in like Mayan mythology. But he was gifted, he gave them like mangoes and corn and all the things, and the Maya really loved him because he was that one that they would worship at like solstices and stuff because he's the harvest god. You can imagine like a cool dragon / snake with like rainbow wings, which is interesting. Rainbow serpent here and the serpent in Eden about the apple. My brain's just gone on like a whole Lilith pathway. We actually have a snake who lives there named Lilith as well. So, but what I'm getting at is that the Kukulkan lived in paradise, right, with all these other gods, and wanted to give cacao to man, and asked the gods, and they all said, like, some said, no, you can't give it to them. It'll make them like us. You've given them enough. And others were like, yeah, sure, share it. And there's a big argument, and Kukulkan kind of like flew / slithered sneakily out of the room, grabbed the small cacao tree, flew into a rainbow, into the morning star, which is Venus, and then presented cacao to the Maya and taught them how to use it. And when that was happening, he could hear in the ether that the gods were pissed off at him. What about Prometheus? Yeah. Yep. Similar. Greek. Yeah. Fire. See it. Also, like with the Eden and the snake saying, eat the apple, but don't eat the apple, and then getting kicked out of Eden. But Kukulkan essentially got kicked out of paradise, which is like the ether realm of those gods, which is cool in that story because I think about Kukulkan still flying around in our world. So like I visualize and see in my dreaming when I'm doing chocolate dreamings that there is this winged serpent flying above my head and around the circle. So even if I forget to cast the circle, he's flying up there like owning it and can like be a mediator between the worlds because he's from there and here. So chocolate being the food of the gods, it's of the gods, but it's here on earth. So it's mediating that process of connecting us to all the elements. So from the earth to the ether, from the ether to the earth. So I play with that in chocolate dreaming. And then it also connects a lot of different plants, which I'll talk about when we get back, which is phytochemysticism, which is like where the phytochemistry of plants and the mysticism of plants and how they interrelate. But I'll talk about that when I get back. And we'll talk about some powerful plants. So if you want to just come out that way into the garden, and just love up the garden. Maybe you want to like put your feet on the earth, or just have like how long, Sam? Right. So have a little 10-minute break. into the garden.